All right, so we're going to, in order to help Emily, again, let's go around the room and announce who the board members are in the room.
Sarah Webb at large.
Leanne Jelson, Brookline.
Lindsay Bertram from Bising.
Dana West, Jamaica.
Raven from Jamaica.
Crystal Corview, Wyndham.
Joe Winrick, Townsend.
Al Glosson, Townsend.
And you have a few online.
You want to announce the board members that are online?
Emily Long on Zoom.
Hi, Kate Gehring. I'm at large. I live in Newfane.
Peter Broussard, Newfane.
Well, we're going to do something a little different tonight. I actually have some prepared words that I'm going to read through, which is abnormal for me, but we're going to do it anyway. So first, thank you for coming out in person and online to engage in what may be a challenging conversation, but it is important for adults to engage in these conversations. Many of you know me. I've been managing life and death situations in my professional life for nearly 30 years. And thankfully, this evening's topic was not elevated to that level. Every week, I tell my new EMTs and paramedics that our first job is to bring calm to chaos. As the chair of this board, I've been given the opportunity to bring calm to this chaos and lead the board through this work. Part of my responsibility, I get to call meetings and set the agenda. It's also my responsibility to ensure our meetings are respectful and productive. I want to be clear that the board as a whole has been empowered by the voters to make decisions about how our system operates. Setting clear expectations this evening will allow all of us to find the opportunity at the end of this conversation. The format for tonight's meeting is going to be different than our standard meeting format. As it is warned, we will be taking up a single topic. The board is going to enter into an executive session early in the meeting to get some consultation from our attorney, and we'll briefly need to move everyone to the hallway of the waiting room. When we return to public session, the school board, is going to have a meeting of the school board. That meeting is being held in public, but it is not a public meeting. As elected officials that sit around this table, we have the opportunity to discuss and debate issues. It is the board's responsibility to oversee and provide policy and accountability. I do not believe there's going to be any action taken this evening. I value public participation in our conversations and intend to allow every person who wishes to address the board to do so this evening. Based on the number of people that wish to speak, we will set a time limit, and we're setting a hard stop to this meeting at 9 p.m. Board members will not be permitted to engage in back and forth conversation or debate with members of the public. We will be listening to what is said, and then the board will have an opportunity to discuss, deliberate, and debate after the public comment. That's going to be our format for this evening. So if there are any questions from board members about how this meeting is going to be managed tonight. Not that I would entertain the motion to enter executive session.
I can do it. I move to enter an executive session for confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body under 1 VSA 313F.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstaining? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously, and we'll get into the executive session. We are now out of executive session. I believe we have let everybody that was in the waiting room back in, everybody in the call is back in the room. So the board is taking no action as a result of our executive session. Once again, I am going to read something which is not normal for me, but we're going to try this anyway. Prior to opening public comment, I'm going to take a moment to clarify the events that took place at Leland Gray on January 29th that we're here to talk about tonight. I spoke with many parents, students, teachers, and community members over the last week. I've also had the opportunity to meet with the administration several times. What is clear and undeniable is everyone wants what's best for our students, even though we don't necessarily agree on what that is. Last Thursday morning, high school students gathered in the gym under this banner to participate in standardized testing, united as one rebel, green and white, to the core. By all accounts, the students knocked it out of the park with impressive cooperation and performance. By the time the students left school on Thursday, our rebels were divided red and blue. There were students that felt uncomfortable. We had an educational environment that some parents were concerned about. Polarizing, divisive national politics had quite literally spread to the halls of our school within hours. We now have an opportunity to bring our community together to support our students and make sure that we're focused on one rebel. We have an opportunity to demonstrate civility and do what's right for our kids. What happened last Thursday? Thursday morning, a teacher in a high school posted a letter in Google Classroom. The letter was sent from students to parents and has been circulated in social media. The letter provided information about a protest the following day. Some students and parents believe the letter was politically slanted and encouraged kids to skip school. Shortly after the letter was sent, unrelated, a student with assistance from a staff member to printed posters that were posted on the walls of the school. This was the first point where the administration became aware that anything was going on and began to manage the situation. They actively removed posters, answered questions from the students, and fielded the many phone calls and emails from the parents and the public. They also worked to find the source of the documents. Their initial focus being on students trying to correct bad information. A middle school teacher that I spoke with described ripping down the posters and having a sit-down conversation to explain the importance of school to the students. Last Thursday afternoon, a message was sent by staff explaining that the posters did not involve any Leland Gray staff. A subsequent thorough investigation determined that, in fact, they were printed here with assistance from a staff member, which is not unusual in the building. Administration has been working diligently to establish processes for expectations around posting on the school walls, as well as looked at updates necessary to clarify expectations in the employee manual. I asked that before we open public comment that we keep our focus tonight on making sure that we have one rebel and making sure that we continue to support the students. With that all being said, I would like a show of all hands that wish to speak tonight so that I can get a count, so that I can have some idea of how much time to allow each person. So if you intend to speak tonight, whether you're online or in the room, please raise your hand so that Peter can count you. Yes, people on Zoom, click the little hand button on the screen.
Right. I am only counting one person with their hand raised on Zoom. So if you think you have your hand raised, oh, okay. I'll give it another moment here anyone else get their hand raised? I now have 2 on Zoom. And for those I can't see, we have 4 in person.
Just ask about it.
If you can't figure out how to unmute, you're online and want to speak. Can't figure out how to raise your hand and you're online and you want to speak, go ahead and unmute and just tell us that you want to speak. All right. So
I would like to, Siobhan McDermott, I would like to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to speak.
Thank you.
So 4 on Zoom, 4 in person.
All right. So given that I set a hard stop for this meeting for an hour from now, let's go ahead and start with a 2-minute. That seems reasonable to board members.
Other people will want to join.
And that should give the board an opportunity to be able to have some discussion after. So I'm going to ask you to keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. Peter is going to be our timekeeper, so if he indicates that you're at the end of 2 minutes, please wrap up so that we can move on to the next comment. Remind everybody what it took to do the meeting. There will not be back and forth between members of the public and the board. Everybody can speak to the board, we will listen, and then we'll engage in all of our conversation after the public comment. So we'll start online tonight with Michael Pelton.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'll try to keep it short. Frankly, I'm disappointed that the political world has entered the high school. Frankly, I'm not surprised, but I'm disappointed that it was allowed and that staff members participated and were willing to send out emails to students regarding political hootenanny. I think it's frankly an unfortunate sign, and I would expect that the board would exercise its duties to alleviate that problem in the future. I expect fully that there will be a rug sweep, unfortunately, but I hope that people can see that the job is to educate students and not contribute to the unfortunate discourse in the political world. Thanks.
Thank you. Peter, you saw this up.
Yeah. We'll start all the way on the left. My name is Kevin Burke.
Yeah, actually, the people in the room, we have you step up just so I can hear you. It's a lot of like maybe the front.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
My name is Kevin Burke, and I live in Wardsboro.
Come right over here. Yeah. This is the mic, and they will hear you better the closer you are.
Awesome. All right. I'm here to raise concern regarding recent public statements made by a member of the board that referenced an individual teacher and called for that teacher's removal based on a perceived bias. I want to be clear at the outset that this concern is not about political viewpoints or disagreement over ideas. Rather, it is about process, governance norms, and protection of the process for staff and the broader educational implications of how these issues are handled. As I understand both board policy and standard school governance practice, individual board members do not supervise, discipline, or evaluate employees, and personnel matters are to be handled through established administrative channels and with appropriate confidentiality. Public calls for termination, particularly absent an investigation for formal finding, risk undermining these norms, chilling staff professionalism, and exposing the district to unnecessary legal and labor-related risk. Additionally, the public sharing of internal school communications and speculation regarding responsibility for materials posted on campus without verified information raises concerns about fairness to staff and the integrity of established review process. I'm also concerned about indications that in response to this situation, there may be interest in introducing directives or policy language that broadly restrict teachers from addressing politics in the classroom. Public education necessarily prepares students to understand democratic processes, civic participation in the world they live in. Policies that are not carefully defined or grounded in existing standards may unintentionally discourage educators from engaging students in age-appropriate, informational, and pedagogically sound discussions that are essential to a well-rounded education. Thank you.
In on Zoom, I think bouncing back and forth makes sense.
Abigail Pelton is next online.
Thank you. I just want to start off by thanking our representative, Crystal Corview, for being quick to alert our community members as to what had transpired. And I share Michael's sentiment that it's just very disappointing. The craziness that we experience in this world, it is up to us to model a behavior what we hope to see from our students. And it is very disheartening to see behaviors that are being modeled in such an unprofessional and not appropriate way for our students. So I agree. I hope that this is taken very seriously and understanding the importance of keeping the school safe. That could have transpired into something much more violent, much more harmful, and that is not what needs to be modeled to our students. So thank you.
Thank you.
Technically, no, Tammy.
Technically. Means I can change my mind, right?
Tammy Clausen. I have, Townsend resident and an educator. I contemplated whether I was going to speak tonight, but I just feel that as somebody who has worked in this building for 36 years and pours our heart and soul into these kids, that I feel like it's like a slap in the face to hear that we're not supported, that we're not professional. We do so much for our kids in this community, and tomorrow night I'm about to kick off our Hoops for Hope, where we raise a lot of money and the community comes together. And I just really hope that we can come together as one rebel and put the politics aside and just be a community again, be one rebel. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Siobhan McDonough.
Thank you, Dana. I expressed my views in a letter that I submitted to the board of directors earlier today. I believe that, although I don't know Ashley, I did a lot of reading about her positions in the community, and I too believe that our teachers need to be supported and they need to be given the opportunity to teach children to think. These aren't children. They're nearly adults, and they need to be given the facts of a situation and given the opportunity to decide for themselves. Educators are empowered and expected to teach students critical thinking. We ask them to assess the facts and think for themselves, but only through civil and civic discourse can we prepare them for the world ahead. And this is a particularly difficult time, and lines are drawn, families are divided, but if there is no opportunity for students to share their voice and to learn what's happening and take their own positions, then we're just spinning and spinning even further. I stand behind Ashley and I stand behind the faculty at Leland and Gray, and I hope the board of directors does too. Ashley was voted an outstanding educator in 2024 by the University of Vermont. That's a pretty high standard, I suspect. So I'd encourage you all to remember that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, this one.
So I'm Bruce Whitman. I'm a longtime teacher here. There was nothing wrong with Ashley's message. In fact, our own superintendent said there's going to be no supplementary discipline to her at all. The way it got out, we can talk about. The most disappointing thing to me is you as a board. And it was a Facebook post that was put out that was immediately accepted as gospel. And the venomous response from some people sitting in this room was so discouraging to me as a teacher. Should be ashamed of themselves. Okay. Could we have done better? Maybe. Could you have done better? I think so. We need your support. We try so hard to teach your children to think critically. And that's something that you didn't do, or some of you didn't do in this spot. And that, to me, after 26 years in this building, is so disheartening. Thank you.
There was. Okay, I didn't catch it.
You're right. Christina?
I would also like it if the board could add to their what they just said about their part in this, because a lot of this was escalated by a board member and a lot of board members' comments on Facebook and social media that they did not get the facts before they posted. And it escalated the situation extremely. And I think that the board needs to be accountable for their actions in escalating this.
Thank you.
My name is Erica. I wrote this down, so I'm going to read it. I want to begin by expressing my support for the teacher at the center of the situation. She is an award-winning educator who has consistently demonstrated professionalism, care, and thoughtful communication, qualities I would hope our students learn from and emulate. I was concerned to see accusations of political bias escalate publicly on social media, particularly when those accusations were amplified through emotionally charged commentary by members of this board. At a time when our communities are already experiencing a great deal of division and outrage, leadership has an important role in setting a tone of restraint and care. Public discussion of a teacher's employment outside of any formal review process is concerning, and it risks unintended consequences for the school, the staff, and for the students. School boards govern through policy and process, and I hope future concerns can be addressed through those established channels rather than in public forums. My hope is that this board will move forward in a way that reflects professionalism, discretion, and respect for the entire school community. Our students learn as much from how adults behave publicly as from anything taught in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that ends 8 people that ends the 8 people that had declared when you asked that they would like to speak. Since then, we have one more on Zoom.
Luke.
Hi, thank you. Luke Stafford, Newfane resident. As I was thinking about, what I wanted to say, then I heard Kevin Burke speak, and I just want to throw my support fully behind what he outlined there. And I also want to support what Tammy Clausen said, and Bruce. My support is behind these teachers, and I have to feel that because there was no clear policy in place, that this teacher, I'm certain that she would not have posted in Google Classroom if there was a clear policy in place. And the fact that we're here on a Thursday night, all of us are spending our time doing this. I think if there was clear policies in place and our teachers were properly supported, that this could be more properly managed.
Thank you. All right. Is there anybody else in the room that did not initially decide they want to speak that's inspired at this moment and would like to take the floor? All right. Seeing none, is there anybody else online that did not say they wanted to speak that would like to take the opportunity to speak?
Encourage them to unmute if they can't raise their hand.
If you can't raise your hand, go ahead and unmute and just announce yourself. I'm seeing everybody on the screen.
And when they raise their hand, it will move to the beginning.
So before we end the public comment, once we officially close public comments and the board has an opportunity for discussion, we are not going back to public comments. So this is your opportunity. If you would like to speak, I do not want to cut you off, but we are not going to be going from board conversation back to public comment. So I'll put it out there one more time. It's the last call for public comment before I shut it off for the evening.
We would like to make a comment.
All right. Go ahead, Eric. Is that Eric? Yes, Eric.
Well, it's actually, hi, it's Amy Powling from Newfane.
Okay.
I just wanted to kind of say, like, my daughter is in 6th grade, and my first stop for question was not to call the school. It was to talk to my daughter and just to kind of get a feel of what the vibe was, what went down, blah, 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 blah. And I do want to just say that I don't know how every teacher handled it, but in regards to what I was told for my daughter, her teachers were absolutely amazing in how they addressed it, acknowledged it, moved on. Like they were very factual, and they were not, my daughter did not feel swayed one way or another politically. It was this is what it is. This is how we're dealing with whatever it is, moving on. And I just want to say thank you. I don't want it to sound like every parent is after the entire staff. And I think it's important to acknowledge that we do have some really, really great teachers there. And while I have no knowledge or experience with the teacher that's in question, I can just say that my daughter's teachers and experience were really awesome in terms of addressing this. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, last call. All right, hearing none and seeing no hands or anybody unmuting, then we're going to close the public comment for this evening. And we're going to open for board discussion around the topic. So I would remind the board that we are not going to be discussing individual employees or any topics that are not appropriate for the board to discuss. So as we enter into our evening, keep that in mind. And I would also remind everybody that, as I said earlier, our goal is to maintain our focus on our kids or bringing us back together as one rebel. So who would like to start this evening's?
I would like to address the process of students who might feel a little uncomfortable in the subject matter that might be presented in class. Is there a process where if they feel alienated or discriminated against, they can approach the administration to bring it up? Because everybody has the right their side, but sides flip. For this way 1 minute and then they're the next. I was looking for us to develop a policy of being politically neutral. I know that doesn't seem popular among some people, but I'm trying to create a school that is safe. All that crap outside is there a policy or a procedure administration that we can? So if it feels like if a student feels like they're being indoctrined to their beliefs or not, or being ridiculed or anything like that, I mean, that's discrimination, and that's going to bring that lawyer back in.
So I can speak to the first part. We got our panorama student surveys back in the fall, and one of our highest scoring areas is that students feel like they belong here. And I can tell you that students approach and speak with their teachers all the time. That being said, I also am out and about in the school, and there are times when students come to the office to speak to either Miss Remish there or me. I believe students feel pretty comfortable finding an adult in the building and getting help, figuring out ways through things or reporting things that they need to. There a set, like we've communicated it in assemblies, but to say there's a set steps or process, I think it's understood, but we do pretty well based on data and surveys, but also like my own experience in the building.
Just a little concerned about possible intimidation, discrimination. Everybody has their views. They're entitled to them. I just don't want to see an atmosphere where it's something that you don't see. It's underlying.
I don't see it. I think the number was actually 89% of the students in the school feel a sense of belonging. I don't think it'd be the highest for feeling intimidated or whatnot. And to be honest, in general, students speak up. I encourage them to speak up. Like, you speak up for yourself. And I think the staff encourage that of our students. Sometimes I hear comments about, the concern of intimidation or whatnot. And I do wonder sometimes if students aren't hearing the adults. Not all the time, not going to say that, but it's like we got to be careful. But I do trust students to come forward. They'll speak.
Yeah, I mean, there's concern.
Yeah.
Sorry,
no.
If a student has a certain belief, but they don't want that certain teacher to know their belief because they're afraid they will be punished or retribution, then we got a harassment.
Thank you for clarifying. I don't believe there's a staff member in this school that will treat any student differently because of their political beliefs or whatnot.
I hope not.
I don't believe.
I really hope.
I do not believe there's a staff member in this building that will hold students' political beliefs against them.
Or any beliefs, religious or anything. Yeah.
So, I want to push a little bit, right?
Yep.
So, let's assume that perception is reality. So if it's perceived by that student, it's a real thing. My understanding is that you're actively taking steps to try to make sure students feel safe. That's part of your daily process. You're working on stuff to try to help, even try to manage the perception.
Yeah. I mean, you got to talk with the students, see what's going on. You involve staff, there's school counseling. Yeah. I mean, you got to work through it with discussion. And it's always like, what evidence, what are you feeling, what details do you have in processing it? Sure.
I think you're next.
Okay. Yeah. I want to push a little bit too. I want to have folks in the community, teachers, etc., feel as though they're supported. Social media is a kangaroo court. There is no due process. It's not impartial, and you are immediately judged, and it never goes away. You can look up social media from 10 years ago. It doesn't go away, right? So we can recant our statements. The original statement's still there. I'll agree with Bruce. I'm embarrassed for us as a board. It should have never gotten to this. Due process is always the right way. There should have been an investigation. We should have handled it. Yes, maybe there should have been, there will be differences or changes to the process. And that's a good thing. That's fantastic. But we could have done it in a better way, in a different way that wasn't divisive. That was one rebel. We did not do it. So as a board, I'm not happy. That's how this came out. So I think we should be better. And I hope that teachers feel supported. Community members know that they have a good quality team of administration, staff, etc., that are all doing the best they possibly can to educate our students. As you said, this is what this is about, our students. So the act of conflating things and blowing things out of proportion is just an incredible amount of damage. I'm hoping that we can, as a board, recuperate from this and regain the trust. I mean, we have a budget that we need to pass very shortly. So this is just really put a ding in us as a board. Did not participate, but I will apologize for us as a board. Hope we can move forward on this. Thanks.
I agree, Al. I'm a chain, and we've talked a lot about putting some guardrails in place and clarifying some of the understanding around expected behavior. But the glaring error in that conversation, in my opinion, so far, is we have not discussed a single guardrail for board members or any expectation of the behavior of those board members. I would suggest that that needs to happen based on our performance. One of the speakers talked about modeling behavior. Think about the behavior of some of the board members who went out with inaccurate, incomplete information and then called for the public termination of a teacher. Is that the behavior that we want our students to model? Is that what, as a board, we're teaching them is an okay position to take? No. It's disturbing to me that we have to actually sit here as leaders in the community and adults and think about that we have to say this out loud and write it down so we remember this, because we should be better than this. But I think we need to add that to something, some guardrails for that as well. Thanks.
Yeah, just a couple things. The first one is that, man, I really would like us to be more careful in how we word things by saying not a single person here represents the entire board. So, and the only time that someone may is with a motion by the board. So I don't feel like any of us should be speaking on behalf of the board. You can speak on behalf of yourself. Your actions can speak on behalf of yourself. But there is not a single one of us that speak on behalf of the board and the board's ideology or mindset, unless that is presented by a motion, an accepted motion. And so I encourage everyone, but particularly board members, to keep that in mind. And then the second thing is there were several people that expressed disappointment that politics entered the building. And that confuses me, because politics is and there's so many connotations with the word politics. Governance is something that is taught in a building, and I think it very much needs to be talked about. It just needs to be talked about in the correct way. But people's expectations for politics to never enter the school building is completely unreasonable, in my opinion, because these things need to be talked about. And I think actually talking about them in supervised forums within the school and through proper discussion led by the teachers, nonpartisan discussion is really important. So just want to put that out there that I very much disagree with the idea of keeping politics away from the school completely. They just need to be approached in a respectful and mindful way. Thank you.
Other board members? Emily just unmuted, so.
I'm happy to share some thoughts. I feel that I'm a real disadvantage being online, but online tonight, I can't see all of you when you're speaking, so that's a disadvantage for us. But I just want to make a couple of quick comments. I'm going to say I agree with the comments that several of you board members have made tonight, the ones that I could hear clearly, about supporting our staff and supporting our administration and placing trust in a process that we have in place. We have to set a great example for our communities. There's no question about that. We have to respect everyone's right to free speech, and we have to respect each other. Someone mentioned tonight about making sure that we're educating our students to be able to be critical thinkers. And that's so important to me. And I truly trust our staff and our administration. And I am not one who saw the Facebook posts. I did not engage in Facebook. I didn't see any of the posts, don't know what was said, but it was pretty clear tonight that it was hurtful. And that's not okay with me. And we have some work to do as a board, I think, to make sure that we're operating collectively as a unit, to make sure that we're supporting our staff and our administration and our parents and our children, to make sure that the best education possible is provided to them. And that means we're a community and we have to act like one. So I just want to thank you, and I'm going to say thank you, Drew, for leading a good conversation tonight and allowing people to have a voice here, because everyone should have a voice. And I'm sorry we had to go through this, but I think we can come out on the other side, maybe with a little board training on how we can maybe work collectively better together. So thanks.
Thank you. Other board members that want to speak?
Yeah. I would just like to say I'm grateful for the outpouring of community that is here tonight. I think it shows support for what we're trying to do, for our kids and for our staff who we support. And I know we all have First Amendment rights, but we also have a choice in how we execute them. And I think we as board members especially have an important role in choosing the high road and also allowing the administration to do the job. Because I think going to social media before allowing the school to fully deal with the situation conflates it into something it doesn't need to be. And I think us, especially as board members, need to set that example. And of course, with parents first too. A lot of us are parents. But I think it's super important that as parents and board members, we trust the school to do their job. And we give them the opportunity to do that before we make comments, be that fully informed. I particularly, and it also was a little striking to me that parents were receiving information during the school day from their children. And I would hope that, seeing as there is a cell phone being held about, that parents would encourage students who do feel the need to contact them to talk to the administration, and they themselves contact the school, say, my child felt need to contact me during the day, even though they're not supposed to be taking out their cell phone. Allow the school to take care of the problem. And of course, express concern if you feel your child is in need of help. But there are other ways to go about that. And especially as board members, I think social media should never be the first place or a place to go with concern about the school. No, I was done. I just remembered. I also, I feel like it could be helpful going forward to have a board member conduct that could maybe outline. We can decide as a full group what we feel is appropriate. And would be something to have going forward.
The VFBA does have a code of conduct on social media.
I know. I checked.
Yeah, I checked. I looked. Actually went in there and looked. I actually emailed them.
I have 2 different drafts. I can bring them forward.
Yeah. Because even I don't know what all of the rules are.
I guess. So in the same way that I would never presume to suggest that a staff member should not speak their mind on their own time, I would hope that the board would also allow every board member to freely speak their own minds on their own time. We as a board are a body together, and at no point can any single board member speaking in the community speak on behalf of the board. So whether that is saying, I like a thing or I hate a thing, or I was at the school and saw a thing, or I am super supportive of this event that's going on. It does not, that is never a board as a body speaking. That is always an individual, in the same way that a staff member on their own time, not in the school, speaking freely of their own mind, can say absolutely anything they want to say. I am all the way here for everybody's First Amendment rights. I would like everybody to say all of the things all of the time. That's how I feel about the First Amendment. I would like everybody to say all of their things when they need to say them, when they are speaking for themselves. In that same way, I, as a board member, when sitting here as part of a board, will speak in a different way than I may speak when I'm talking to my husband or my kids or my friend down the road or my social media, because that is my personal communication. I do think that it is important that we find trust in our community. And I think that my personal belief on the best way for trust to find trust is through transparency. So if everybody knows what is happening and everybody knows what the expectations are and everybody understands what our goals and how we plan to move forward, I think that all of those things are how we build trust. So after having more conversations in the last few days than I have had in the last few months, I'm pretty sure, I have been approached by, messaged by, stopped in the grocery store by a million people, many of whom have expressed
concern over the level of politics that exists in school and a wish for more neutrality. Some of whom also have expressed to me concern about how much is said and when it is said. After all of that, I think that I'm feeling somewhat exhausted by the process and by the conversations. It's been a lot to sort through. And I think that what I really hope we can do at this point is move forward with meaningful change. I think that we've talked about some potential handbook changes that may be happening that sounds like good roadblocks to put in place. I think there may be some other things that we could put in place to just guide the ship. Personally, I don't want no politics in the school. That's not something that I think is good for our students, to have no politics in school. What I do think is important is that employees of the school, teachers in the school, hold a very special role in our children's lives. They come from a very special place of authority. The level of authority that teachers have within the school is a very big responsibility. They are there doing a very important job. And I would say that I'm actually, on the whole, very proud of how our school and how our staff go about that. I think I'm personally, again, I'm just one person, but very proud of how that mostly happens. That being said, there are times when I think that it goes off the rails a little bit. And I think it's really important that every single student is given the opportunity to truly feel like they can express their own point of view, whatever that is. And I think that it's been mentioned that, you know, the job of a teacher, one of the most important jobs of a teacher is to teach critical thinking. And I think that you cannot possibly teach critical thinking by only presenting one side of a story. You have to put all of the pieces out there, talk about the gray areas in between. It has to be a conversation that happens, and it can't ever be a couple of tidbits and then just left. I think that is an important responsibility for our staff. And so I do believe that we need to have policy regarding political neutrality so that we can guide that ship. Like I said, I don't want to tell anybody they can't say things. I think that we just need to tell everybody, let's say it from all the points of view. A lot of people feel like this about a thing. A lot of people feel like this about that thing. And then even more people feel something in between about it, and have the whole conversation about that in order to be as neutral as possible to students so that they can develop their own opinions. Anyway, that being said, I would love to allow the policy committee to bring forth, or to look at and decide if it's worth bringing forth a policy on political neutrality.
Non-spoken.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull something up because what I intend to say doesn't always match what is out. So, actually, there's one other point that I do want to reiterate. Peter mentioned that, and Lindsay's mentioned it. None of us as individuals have power. The power comes from the board as a whole. I mean, and a lot of us have dual roles. We're parents, community members, board members, staff. A lot of our staff resides within the boundaries of our district. Personally, I got one where a parent had reacts and, oh my gosh, now my kid's being told not to go to school. When I know I have a daily battle to get him there. So that's helpful. But there's a board level too. And on that, I think we do need some political neutrality and some guidelines. As Dana, I understand that you are working into making some corrections in the handbook. I really appreciate that. Public schools serve students and families from diverse backgrounds and beliefs. When classrooms or school activities take on political tone, intentionally or not, students who often have the minority or a differing viewpoint can feel silenced or left out. This not only undermines the principles of inclusivity and the respect that we strive for, but also discourages open dialogue and critical thinking. Both are core components of education. Political neutrality is not about suppressing what someone can say, but making sure that it's looked at as a whole with different viewpoints. Even if there's a need to, say, play devil's advocate just to get a conversation going. The more views you can look at, more facts students are presented with, they can learn how to think and not what to think. And I think that's very important to be looked at, because I have heard from a few students of families that I know that feel uncomfortable expressing their views because they know they will be in that minority. And I just think that that is something that we possibly should explore further as policy around that. Kate.
Thanks. Sorry, for some reason I'm not able to use the hand raised button. I really appreciate everyone's comments, board and members of the public. I reiterate that it's very hard to speak without seeing you all. I want to return to comments about Facebook and social media more generally, which is that it is both teachers and school board members. We may be able to post what you can, but we have a responsibility because we have a different role in what we post or spread or say or however one does it. I don't do a lot of Facebook, so I haven't seen a lot of what's gone on, but I have responsibility as a school board member to communicate differently than I might just as a parent or as somebody else. Many districts have policies about what their staff can say. They may not, it's not political opinions, but it is content who can read it. And I think we should think about that as a board guidelines, even if we don't adopt policies. I think that is something we should discuss further as a board. Excuse me. I also think that we do well in learning to support our staff to have difficult and learning conversations. Neutrality means a different thing to many people on this conversation even, and I think supporting our staff and having conversations and trusting what they're doing, bringing appropriate conversations first to the school rather than the community is really important for all of us to, excuse me, forgive me, be able to work together. Forgive me, guys. I'm going to sign off. I can't keep talking. I'll hop back on if I can.
So I am the person that posted the teacher should be fired. I will apologize for posting that. I was very emotional about what was happening down here, not from a political standpoint. I have, in the past 3 months, removed everything political from my social media. So, like, at this point, the only thing I have on my social media is, can you sing these 12 80s songs? Because I no longer want to be fed information through news, social media. I want to do my own investigation and come up with my own feelings, not somebody else's. I will fully admit that I shouldn't have said she should be fired. My emotions came around. I was worried about the safety of my kids. Because we are receiving emails telling us that kids who feel this way are angry that signs are being ripped down. Kids who maybe didn't support the walkout are ripping the signs down. And I was very concerned that my kid was in danger to the point that I brought him home. I removed him at like, I don't know, 11:30 that day. I didn't send him the next day. He just had no clue what was happening. I felt my kid was in danger. I would agree that as board members, we probably need parameters surrounding our social medias and using them more carefully. My post was not a political standpoint. I think everybody is entitled to their own opinions on politics. But I want to make sure that the people in our educational facilities who are teaching our kids or talking to them about politics are very neutral. That they're saying, okay, this walkout is happening, but also that it's okay that some kids wanted to observe a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. And I know they were promptly told no. So I want there to be a balance of what we say is okay. Because we can't say, this walkout is okay, but you want this for this side, and that's no. I will apologize to Ashley, and I will do it in person. And I do apologize to the staff that's here, and that's angry and feels like the board doesn't support them. I think we've all shown support previously in attending all the functions, helping with the functions. And yeah, I just, I was very emotional that I felt my kids were in danger. It wasn't political. And I will apologize to the teacher.
Giving all the board members an opportunity to speak. Would you like to make a comment before I do?
I'd love to, actually.
No.
No. Board, it's been a long time to sit here and not talk. You guys know me better than that. Yeah, I want to come back to like where we started the conversation. And I love how you did that with the 17 teams, one rebel poster that's hanging down in the gym. high schools are complicated places. All right. I spent a lot of time in them. And the work that you guys are doing, the struggle that exists is real. Schools are often reflections of society. And so when your country is polarized, sometimes your schools are polarized. And we want all kids to feel belonging. And I think that's Dana mentioned that we want that. We'd love that number to be 100%, right? I mean, that he mentioned. But I want to just congratulate you guys as a community for tonight. I've been a part of some weird board meetings. I don't mean this board, of course, but other boards. Having served on a board myself for 8 years, I've seen big turnouts. This is a pretty good sized turnout. We have over 50 something in the Zoom at one point, and 13 or so here. I saw a bigger one once when we fired a football coach at a previous job, but that's a whole other story for another day. But what you guys have been able to do is been able to have a conversation that's been civil and that's been appropriate, and it's been given some constraints. So I want to say a special thanks to you for how you've coordinated and run this. I think that it says a lot about the commitment to the board and to the kids in the community here. And it felt really safe to be an observer in this space. I hope everyone felt the same way. And I think that's a credit to you and to the board and to the community. There's healing needs to still happen. I want to just say huge props to you for what you just said. And I think that's how we start healing. And I appreciate that. And I'm sure the staff and National will as well. And I want to thank Dana as well for the work that he's put in through this process. I know we've spent a lot of time together, the three of us, the last week trying to work through stuff. And Dana's been incredibly thoughtful about this. And he's put in a lot of time, and he's talked with attorneys, he's talked to board chairs and superintendents and other people. And I just want to say thank you to him for the way he conducts himself with this process, because it's not something that's super comfortable. But anyways, so thank you to those guys and to those that showed up to speak. So I didn't have a position. I just wanted to say thank you and to say that this is how we heal. We move forward one step at a time. And so it's job Drew.
So I'm going to take the last comment. So I'm going to put you up against the hard stop this evening. And, living in the valley here is a blessing and a curse. Right? It's a small community, and many of us share multiple roles as parents, as board members, some double as coaches and teachers and substitutes. And we all interact every single day in many different ways. What's clear, and as I said earlier, is that everybody that was involved is really concerned about students and what is best for them. I think what I've learned, spending an entire week of my life with Bob on the phone.
It's a dream, really, right?
Sometimes in the dark, actually, when the power goes out. Fun fact, his office does not have a generator. Is that we have to be really thoughtful about actions, and I think the staff needs to be thoughtful about the impact that their words are going to have. As Dana said that we've had some disruption in learning. I think we, as board members, have acknowledged that some of our words have impacts, and I am hopeful that in national politics, the temperature will decrease, and we can all come together and work on a happy future for our country. I do not expect that this will be the last conversation that has challenges here in the West River Valley. So I do want to thank everybody for participating, for being civil, and really demonstrating how adults have adult conversations. I know there has been some conversation about policy, and some of our members of the public mentioned policy and clear expectations. I do know that the administration is working on clarification for us. So I'm not opposed to the idea of asking at a future board meeting, should we choose to, a policy. As I said early in the meeting, I don't want to take any action tonight, more a time for discussion and for us to hear from the community. This topic will not, just to be clear to everybody, will not be on the agenda for Monday. We will not be taking any additional comments or discussing about it. But I do encourage everybody to come out and help us with another difficult conversation around the funding and the budget for the school. So that's all I have for this evening. And unless there is a board member that has a burning comment they want to make, I will entertain the final motion of the night. Do you have a comment? Okay.
No, he usually gives it.
4 minutes before the hard stop.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
We have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.